The first game I ever played in the Souls series was Dark Souls for the Xbox 360, however I've always wanted to go back to the original title in the series, Demon Souls, but never got to try and play it because I never had a PlayStation 3. I think this game in a lot of ways is overlooked due to the nature of the Souls series being known as harsh, punishing or difficult, and the fact that you had to get an entirely different console if you didn't already own a PS3 to play it. I think it put a lot of people off when Dark Souls had a better story, more involving characters, and also improvements to the mechanics and gameplay, so a lot of people didn't spend the time going back to the one that started it all off. However, recently I managed to save up a little bit of money to get myself the piano-style PlayStation 3, and seeing as this is a new chapter for the show where we're going to play not only Xbox and PC games and a couple of Nintendo stuff, but also PlayStation 1, 2 and 3 games, I thought to myself, well, what better game to start things off with the PlayStation than Demon Souls, the Black Phantom Edition, and I've heard that this game is more difficult than Bloodborne and even the Dark Souls 1 and 2 games, so I thought I'd put it to the test and see just how difficult it is. So let's get started. What a load of bollocks. So here it is, Demon Souls. Okay, so the plot of this game is that some ancient evil known as the Old One has been woken up by the Mad King Alant of Boletaria in an effort to bring prosperity to his lands. Although it works out, he then unleashes a horde of demons and some kind of colourless fog which has shrouded his kingdom and sowed the seeds for the end of mankind. Bummer, dude. Right, time to create my character. There's actually a lot to the creator. I can pick hairstyles, shape my nose, my cheeks, eyes, etc, and overall it's really competent. I tried my best to make myself in the game, and I ended up with this. Seamless. Now, as the playable character, the first thing you do is just waltz into the fog in an attempt to fix things or capitalise on harvesting the demon souls to become all powerful. So straight away, I didn't feel like part of the world. In Dark Souls 1 and 2, the Curse of the Undead made you feel like your objective was personal and grandiose at the same time. You wanted to cure yourself from an affliction that will never let you die in peace and slowly make your sanity deteriorate, plus the world is also descending into chaos and corruption due to the effects of the curse. This is a good goal to fix. In Demon Souls, your character seems a bit out of place in the world as an outside helping hand with no personal stake to overcome. I started as the royalty class, hoping I'd have an edge over the others by buying all the best gear and having a hefty coin purse before even starting the game. However, the real title for this class might as well have been Posh Mage. Going through the tutorial, it's very familiar to Dark Souls and feels like putting on a pair of worn-in shoes, even if the gameplay is a little clunkier. Similar to what people tend to say about Souls games, they are usually a bit difficult but always fair, as every time you take a hit or die, it's your fault for not evading, blocking or focusing on the fight at hand. In fact, you're actually meant to die in this section of the game in order to progress the story. However, I beat the main boss fight and thought, well, there's got to be something else more challenging up ahead, let's see what happens. Wait a minute, that's not fair. Yeah, so after being clocked by demonic Mike Tyson here,
you can't last 2 minutes in my world, bitch!
We respawn at the Nexus. This place is the hub of the game and it's one of my favourite parts of the overall experience. Here, NPCs you encounter will rest up and eventually form a little community of traders, craftsmen and helping hands to aid you in your quest. We were also given our objective of the game: kill all 5 primordial demons of the land so that the Old One can be sealed away. To do this, we use archstones which teleport us to areas of the world, each controlled by one of these mega demons. Due to this design choice, the game is split up and feels a lot less intimate than the world of Dark Souls 1 or even Dark Souls 2, as every path is very linear and follows a very set structure. Usually there are 3 parts to an archstone, 2 fairly explorative but linear areas which conclude with a boss fight, and then in the 3rd stage it's just a fight one-on-one with the archdemon. We start off in Boletaria Palace as our sort of teaser experience. The environments are pretty impressive to look at, and every nook and cranny has some cool design choices here and there. The enemies, even at the start, are quite varied and slowly build up to add more challenge as you progress from one zone to the next, but one thing that isn't used from Dark Souls are bonfires. Instead, we get to use archstones which work the same as bonfires but are only found at the conclusion of area bosses. You may think this makes the combat very hard due to not having many checkpoints, but the thing is, in this game there are 8 different healing items in the form of grasses. And they stack to 99 versus the Estus Flask which only ever gets to 10. So in other words, if you're like me and you buy and stockpile the highest tiers of grasses for the entire game, you will rarely ever be stingy with healing items and therefore breeze through most of the game. Oh look, a boss fight.
No problem at all. I got this.
Another interesting design difference from Dark Souls is we get a mana bar rather than the casting spell limit, and can even buy spices to refill mana from the start of the game. There's a lot of cool exploration and secrets in each level, and as you progress you're encouraged to return to some areas later on to find new enemy encounters, secret allies and rewards. It isn't long until we fight our first boss as well, Phalanx, who you have to defeat the slimy shield guys which surround it in order to hit its core. However, if you use fire, it's a piece of piss. Next in my Demon Souls journey, I started to use the Archstones to try new areas out. I began in World 4, which is a much more difficult area to tackle due to the enemies getting tougher in each world by numerical order. However, after pillaging items from this zone, I started to do the rounds of each Archstone starting area. This game is also very formulaic compared to Dark Souls. You teleport to semi-contained zones rather than traverse an interconnected world, so a lot of the time it's very easy to do everything in a zone, move on, and never return. However, this game does include a mechanic called Tendency, which can either be black or white, good or evil, and depending on if you max out each zone to black by killing enemies or whilst dying in human form, or white by helping NPCs and staying alive, secret areas and encounters will trigger, which is a neat idea but not kind to inexperienced players. The penalty for death mechanic from Dark Souls, hollowing, is also not in the game, with you instead becoming a sort of ethereal ghost, which doesn't actually have many downsides, mainly due to the fact that no one plays this game anymore. In World 2 it also encouraged me to try weapon upgrades, but it's so convoluted with over 30 types of stones for different weapons, so in the end I never upgraded any of my gear and still sauntered through the trickier parts. There are even level-based hurdles to overcome which you need to strategize on, such as the various Hellkite Dragon attacks in World 1, or the Grim Reapers in World 4 who infinitely summon ghosts to attack you. Although this bit is ridiculous. Although with that said, some of the bosses and enemies of the game are very easily defeated with archery or spells.
I'm good at video games.
Some of the characters also have really cool plot lines to follow for some of the really tragic characters like Stockpile Thomas, the Crestfallen Warrior, and Estrava of Boletaria. However, my favourite character is Bjorn, a massive knight who needs a nap after every battle.
One more demon down! Fine work back there. There again. How could a demon ever stand up to a bona fide knight? Now you go on ahead. I must be getting older. I need some rest.
The boss fights in this game are really creative too. I've already mentioned Phalanx, but there's also the old hero who's blind and can hear when you run or roll around, the Storm King who's a giant flying manta ray which can only be harmed by a nearby magical sword, and the Dragon God needs to be shot by two very conveniently placed harpoon cannons. However, this does make some of them incredibly easy to fight. Then after defeating pretty much every boss in the game and doing everything there is to do, if you go back to World 1 and go to the 4th zone, we face the final proper boss of the game, False King Aland, and he's pretty tricky to fight. But then again... And then we go back to the Nexus to face the Old One. I'm interested to see what he actually looks like. I mean, is he a big dragon, a nasty fire creature, a deformed humanoid shadow, maybe a tree? Was that a bush? Okay, this is rather anticlimactic. I ain't afraid of no shrubbery.
Well, what is it you want? We want a shrubbery!
Okay, so now we traverse the demon's colon and find the real King Allant as some sort of gooey mess, and put him down as the least impressive boss fight in Souls history. Even Pinwheel was better. Then you get to pick if we let the Black Maiden lull the Old One back to sleep, or kill her and become the successor to King Allant and inherit the Demon Soul.
I picked the nice option because I was brought up to be a good lad.
And then, as we walk away from battle and our journey of souls, demons and healing grasses, we start again, ready to complete our journey once more. So yeah, Demon Souls, I completed this game in 2 days. Now I've been playing Dark Souls 1 alongside this game as well to get some footage for a feature coming up soon, and I still struggle with that game occasionally, and it's been well over a week since I've started playing it. This one, for some reason, maybe it was the way I had lots of healing items, special weapons, or the fact that I just generally scaled my character in a particular way, none of the bosses or areas in the game made me tempt it more than twice, and honestly, most of the boss fights and most of the challenge in the game, after the first hour or two, I just sped through without having to think about redoing it or re-strategizing it or changing my weapon loadout, and for the most part, it was a bit of a breeze. I think the reason a lot of Souls veterans think that Demon Souls is the toughest game in the series is because for a lot of them it might have been, or probably was, their first game in the series. Now for me, I did a lot of my training and learning the game in Dark Souls 1, but when Dark Souls 2 came out they improved the combat, and going back to Demon Souls, it's a lot like a scaled down version. Everything is familiar, everything I've done before, and in a lot of ways it's a lot more simplistic to tackle, especially if you use spells. Now with that said, I think it's about time I put Demon Souls aside and took a trip to Lordran, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you guys later.